Tonight on ABC News Live Prime, all eyes on Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth as the Pentagon Inspector General found he put U.S. personnel and their mission at risk. This new report coming from sources to ABC News is connected to Hegseth's use of the Signal messaging app, sharing sensitive information about a military strike on Yemen. All of this comes amid growing questions about that deadly U.S. military attack on an alleged drug boat. New images from inside the Jeffrey Epstein estate. House Democrats released photos revealing a look inside his private resort in the U.S. Virgin Islands. What those images show, with pressure mounting for the Justice Department to release the full Epstein files. The first person to be sentenced in connection to the overdose death of actor Matthew Perry learns their fate. The doctor who supplied him the drug ketamine, even calling him a moron while texting a co-defendant, how long he's going to spend behind bars. Ukrainians not ready to back down. In the wake of a White House envoy meeting with Vladimir Putin in Russia, Ukraine is coming up with new tactics and technologies to carry on the fight. The frigid cold snap you need to prepare ahead for overnight and into tomorrow morning.
I'm Alex Perez in frozen Minneapolis as millions are now bracing for record cold from Florida all the way to the Northeast.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. Spotify rap season. Who topped the global streaming charts? We've got the answer by the numbers.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
And it is a busy Wednesday night. Good to see you. I'm Gio Benitez in for Linsey Davis here on Prime. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We're going to begin here with breaking news with what ABC News has just learned about that second deadly strike on the alleged drug boat from Venezuela. And with what President Trump tonight is now saying about releasing video of the second strike. It comes amid growing scrutiny surrounding Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. And on a separate front, sources now telling ABC News that the Pentagon Inspector General has found Secretary Hegseth put U.S. military personnel and their mission at risk by discussing sensitive information in a group chat using a commercial app, the Signal messaging app. Martha Raddatz leading us off with late reporting now.
Tonight, the controversy swirling around Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth expanding. Sources tell ABC News the Pentagon's independent watchdog has found Hegseth endangered the lives of American troops by using the commercial messaging app Signal to share highly sensitive plans for military strikes on Yemen with administration colleagues, his wife, who is not a government employee, and a reporter who was accidentally added to a group chat. At the time, Hegseth insisted he'd done nothing wrong.
Nobody was texting war plans.
He blamed former employees. He blamed the media.
They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people and ruin their reputations. Not going to work with me.
But the Pentagon Inspector General's new report has, according to sources, determined that if the information Hegseth shared on Signal had fallen into enemy hands, American troops could have been in danger, and that it should not have been sent on the unsecure messaging app. According to sources, Hegseth refused to sit down with the Inspector General, instead providing a statement saying he'd acted within his rights because he has the power to classify and declassify information. Today, a Pentagon spokesman called the report a total exoneration, and the White House said President Trump stands behind Secretary Hegseth. But the report is the latest blow to the embattled secretary, who had spent days trying to explain this September attack on a suspected drug boat off the coast of Venezuela. After this first strike, a second missile was fired, reportedly targeting 2 survivors. International law prohibits killing enemy combatants who no longer pose a threat. The day after the attack, Hegseth said he watched it happen.
I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly what they were doing.
Now, he claims he only watched the first strike.
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded and fire, smoke, you can't see anything, you got digital. This is called the fog of war.
The secretary insists he wasn't the one who ordered the second strike, instead pointing the finger at the mission's commander, Admiral Mitch Bradley. Tonight, ABC's Selena Wang asking President Trump if he will release the video of the second strike.
Will you release video of that strike so that the American people can see for themselves what happened?
I don't know what they have, but whatever they have, we'd certainly release. No problem.
And that video is key. We are so fortunate now to have our chief global affairs correspondent, Martha Raddatz, right here in New York with us in our studio. It is so good to see you, Martha. But right now, you have some new information on those two survivors from that first attack in the Caribbean.
Exactly. You know, we have seen the video of the first strike, but the second strike we have not seen. So as you said, that will be key. But what we are learning tonight, according to a source who is familiar with that incident, is that those two survivors may have gotten back on the boat and tried to communicate. And that's when they decided to launch a second strike, because they felt they were still in the fight, that they got back on that boat. That will be key. They apparently had legal advice from the JAG who was in the room. That is something they will be looking at this week. Tomorrow, Admiral Bradley is going to be up on the Hill behind closed doors, and I'm sure he'll talk all about what happened from his side.
So much to watch there. All right, Martha Raddatz, thank you so much.
Great to see you.
And for more on all of this, let's bring in ABC News contributor Mick Mulroy. Mick, bear with us here because we are getting some new information now about that second strike. So sources have just told ABC News that prior to the first strike targeting boats believed to be carrying drugs, the Pentagon had developed contingency plans for dealing with potential survivor situations. That's according to the source. Now, if there were survivors from an initial strike on a boat that the U.S. military tried to rescue them if they were deemed to no longer be in the fight because they were shipwrecked and in need of help. But if they were deemed to be in communication with other cartel members or took what appeared to be hostile action, they could then be targeted again. So that's new information now from a source. So what do you make of these new details about the second boat strike that are just coming in here?
So that does sound like standard contingency plan operation. So they looked at the rules of engagement, what would happen if. And that would have gone through a legal review. They would have determined that if this event happens, then they would have been back in the boat and potentially moving again, which would make them, under the original order, essentially free to fire upon legally. And then, of course, while the commander is making the actual decision to go ahead and fire upon, there is legal counsel, the command's staff judge advocate in the room that would have essentially cleared it legally. So I don't know if that's the facts. Obviously, that needs to be found out during the testimony of Admiral Bradley tomorrow. But it's important to point out there is legal review during the development of the ROE, the rules of engagement, and then legal review real time during the operation. So I think that's a very important factor to consider.
And Mick, you've seen the headlines on this. I mean, people have been talking about this for days now. Why do you think it took so long for this clarification to come out about that second attack?
It's unclear because it certainly is a very important factor, and why that wouldn't have been discussed earlier on in a normal briefing at the Pentagon, I'm unsure. If they would like to hold until the investigation happens, then, from my perspective, they should have held all this information, including any comment on it, until it was heard by the Senate Armed Services Committee. But if you're going to give partial information out, you might as well give the whole. And I think this is a very important factor that should be considered, most importantly, by the relevant committee, the Oversight Committee in the Senate and the House.
Does the buck ultimately stop with Secretary Hegseth in terms of how these drug boat strikes have played out? Because someone had to have given the order for that second strike, right?
So when it comes to the policy that was developed to strike drug boats coming to the United States, that is with the National Security Council and, of course, the Secretary of Defense. As that gets to the Pentagon and it gets operationalized, it's another review that is done with the Secretary's office. Once it gets relayed down to the combatant commander, in this case, Special Operations Command, they do a legal review, but they don't do a policy review. They don't do policy. So the decision to do these types of strikes is clearly with the civilian leadership. The execution capacity is with the commander. But again, that commander likely had, as its standard operational procedure, a legal review before that strike was taken.
Mick Mulroy, always appreciate your guidance here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And it's important to remember that tensions continue to escalate between the U.S. and Venezuela. So let's get straight to our Matt Rivers, who is on the ground in Trinidad and Tobago. That's not far from Venezuela, with the latest developments. Matt.
Hey there, Gio. A lot of uncertainty in this part of the world right now. No question about it as we continue to hear the drums of war beating in Washington, D.C. President Trump once again saying that the United States is getting closer, is nearing strikes inside of Venezuela. What those look like, when they happen, how they happen, what form they take. Are they airstrikes? Is it some sort of incursion on the ground? Some combination of both? All of those options remain on the table. And frankly, we don't know which way the president is leaning. Certainly the option exists that nothing will happen. That's also an option here, and it is what is making this entire situation so tense, including for Venezuelan leadership led by President Nicolas Maduro, who is basically trying to figure out exactly what's going to happen here. He's shown no signs of stepping down. He's being defiant, but still the threat from the United States looms. That's the threat in the near term that would suggest something is about to happen. On the other hand, you have this interesting development this week where the United States requested and was granted permission to fly 2 separate deportation flights carrying Venezuelan deportees from the United States to Venezuela. In order for those flights to happen, the U.S. has to request permission to enter Venezuelan airspace. Again, asked and granted. So earlier today, the United States flew more than 300 Venezuelan deportees to Caracas, that plane landing earlier today, and another one of those flights is scheduled for Friday. So as long as those flights are in the air, the likelihood of airstrikes in some way, shape, or form happening this week probably goes down. But again, we just simply do not know. The uncertainty is the through line here, Gio, and that's why things are so tense.
All right, Matt Rivers there in Trinidad and Tobago, thank you so much. And as that major nor'easter moves out, record cold, including temperatures below zero, are moving in overnight. That brutal cold stretching from Colorado to Georgia to the northeast. You see it on the map right there. Lee Goldberg is standing by with the forecast. But let's begin with ABC's Alex Perez reporting from frozen Minneapolis.
Tonight, millions bracing for bone-chilling cold after that powerful nor'easter turned roads to ice rinks all over the Northeast.
It's a slip and slide.
Just north of New York City, an out-of-control plow truck slamming a car into the back of a school bus in Monroe, New York. Thankfully, no one was hurt. On Interstate 71 in Cincinnati, watch as these cars fishtail and crash on black ice, other vehicles slowing down just in time. Outside Boston and Seekonk, Massachusetts, this cruiser mangled after hydroplaning and flipping several times. The officer inside was injured. In Nashua, New Hampshire, Marcus Gordon says even his four-wheel drive was no match for the slick roads.
The roads were already wet, and then the snow just came up on top of it, so you can't really see the black ice.
And now the coldest air of the season moving in, icy conditions sure to be a problem in the days ahead.
And our Alex Perez joins us now. Alex, you're looking very cold. A long winter ahead for the upper Midwest.
Yeah, Gio, here in Minneapolis, the temperature is tumbling. By tomorrow morning, the actual temperature here will be about 4 below zero, and it will feel like 15 below zero. Gio?
During the break, I saw you covering your mouth because it is so cold out there. Stay warm, my friend. Get back inside. We'll see you soon. Alex Perez, thank you. And let's get right to our chief meteorologist, Lee Goldberg from our New York station, WABC. So, Lee, what can we expect?
Gio, December not messing around. The coldest air of the season is now pouring into the upper Midwest. And in fact, by morning, you're looking at potentially record cold and sub-zero temperatures. Places like Minneapolis will be below zero, Des Moines as well. We go into Friday, and the core of that cold air starts to spread into the east. Now, we can still have record lows in Chicago and Pittsburgh and Baltimore, 21 in New York. How about 1 in central New York and Utica? You factor in the winds, it feels like 0 in Boston. Teens in New York City, even sub-zero wind chills from Fort Wayne over to Chicago. This chill will start to ease as we go into the weekend, but there's more Arctic air next week. Meanwhile, a new storm out in the Gulf Coast, heavy rain from Houston into New Orleans into tomorrow morning. Then it spreads through the southeast during the day tomorrow. Could be 2 to 4 inches of rain. Then on Friday, cold enough for some snow in parts of North Carolina, Virginia. Maybe some snow could even reach up to Philly and New York City. We'll keep you posted. Gio?
All right, Lee Goldberg, thank you so much. And we turn now to breaking developments involving President Trump's immigration crackdown unfolding in 2 parts of the U.S. tonight. Federal agents are now in New Orleans as agents move into Minnesota at this hour, reportedly targeting Somali immigrants. Here's ABC News Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce.
Tonight, the Trump administration expanding its deportation efforts. Federal agents now hitting the streets of New Orleans. And in Minnesota, ICE now targeting the Somali community as the president doubles down on his attacks.
That beautiful land, that beautiful state, it's a hellhole right now. And the Somalians should be out of here. They've destroyed our country. And all they do is complain, complain, complain.
The president calling Somali immigrants, quote, garbage.
We're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country.
It comes as House Republicans launch an investigation into widespread COVID-era fraud involving some members of Minnesota's large Somali community. The New York Times reports 59 people have been convicted in schemes involving more than $1 billion in stolen taxpayer money that was supposed to go to children and other social services. President Trump seizing on this story as he widens his immigration crackdown. But Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry defending the Somali community.
He's wrong, and we want them here. Somali people have been an extraordinary benefit.
And again, Gio, tonight we are told that ICE operations are now underway in Minnesota. Sources describe this as a targeted enforcement operation going after immigrants with final deportation orders. Gio.
All right, Mary Bruce tonight. Mary, thank you so much. And President Trump has pardoned Texas Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar and his wife in a federal bribery and conspiracy case. Trump says Cuellar and his wife were targeted because the congressman criticized former President Biden's immigration policies. Federal authorities had charged Cuellar and his wife with taking thousands of dollars in exchange for the congressman advancing the interests of an Azerbaijan-controlled energy company and a Mexican bank. Cuellar has said that he and his wife are innocent. Today, House Democrats released photos from the Epstein estate, offering a look inside his private resort in the U.S. Virgin Islands. What those images show amid increasing pressure on the Justice Department to release the full Epstein files. Here's Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katursky.
Tonight, a rare look at Jeffrey Epstein's private Caribbean island, where he allegedly exploited dozens of young women and girls. Video of the secluded hideaway shows the grounds, the pool, the view, along with interior images of a bedroom and bathroom and a room with a dental chair and face masks of men tacked to the wall. House Democrats releasing these images today as they pressure the Trump administration to release all of the Epstein files, joining a chorus of Epstein's accusers.
We're ready for the next step, and we're ready to finally release the files. All the files.
Congress passed and President Trump signed a law requiring the Justice Department to release the records within 30 days. There are just 2 weeks left. But tonight, a potential obstacle. An attorney for Epstein's co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell said today she'll soon file a petition challenging her sex trafficking conviction. Maxwell is expected to file her petition at this courthouse, Gio. It's where she was convicted in 2021. And the Justice Department may try to use that filing as a reason to withhold certain records in the event Maxwell is granted a new trial. However unlikely that may be. Gio?
Aaron Katursky, thank you. Next tonight, the results are in from yesterday's special election in Tennessee, where Republicans were able to hold on to the seat and protect their slim majority in the House. Matt Van Epps, a military veteran and former State General Services Commissioner, defeated Democratic State Representative Afton Bain by 9 percentage points for a seat vacated by Republican Mark Green, who retired over the summer. Green had won re-election by 21 percentage points just last year in that same district. And our Alex Boucher has been tracking all of this for us tonight. Alex, it is good to see you, my friend. So with this election victory, is the result a cause for concern for Republicans heading into the 2026 midterms?
Well, Gio, the answer is kind of yes and no. There's certainly some learning lessons being taken from this race. And look, I mean, I say this because keep in mind, Tennessee is a solidly red state, and this district is a district that President Trump won by 22 points last cycle. You know, when we look at the results from that November 4th election, where you had 2 highly competitive races, gubernatorial races in New Jersey and also in Virginia, Democrats swept that. But here is an instance where Republicans were able to hold on to this coveted seat, and so it was a big and also a needed win for Republicans.
Alex, how crucial is it for Trump's agenda that Republicans retain control of the House in 2026?
Well, I mean, Gio, it's paramount for Republicans, really. I mean, you think about just how contentious things have been on the Hill. And also, we're talking about these redistricting battles that are playing out all over the country. They're all trying to carve out space to make sure that each party has its best shot at either winning or maintaining control of the House. And so this is something that President Trump is keenly aware of. It's the reason why he's been involved in so many of these races that have been playing out. Absolutely, I think there is a sense of urgency from Republicans.
How quickly could Van Epps be sworn in here?
Yeah, well, it's going to happen very, very quick. In fact, Gio, tomorrow at 9 a.m., Speaker Mike Johnson is going to swear in Van Epps. As you mentioned, he is taking over for Tennessee Republican Rep. Mark Green, who resigned in his seat earlier this year. But Van Epps will take over very, very quickly here.
Okay, we'll be watching that 9 a.m. tomorrow. And of course, we're going to be following it right here on ABC News Live. Alex Perche in Washington, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, it was an emotional moment in a Los Angeles courtroom today when the mother of actor Matthew Perry came face to face with the doctor who supplied her son with ketamine. What she told him in court and the sentence for the doctor, here's Trevor Ault.
Tonight, the doctor who sold ketamine to Friends star Matthew Perry leading up to his overdose death was face to face with the actor's family as they described their heartache. Dr. Salvador Plasencia, sentenced to 30 months in prison for selling dozens of vials of ketamine to Perry in exchange for tens of thousands of dollars. Plasencia cried and nodded in agreement as Perry's family accused him of betraying his Hippocratic oath. Perry's sister saying, instead of protecting him, you exploited him. And his mother standing before Plasencia saying, I just want you to see his mother. This is his mother. In a statement, the family says no one alive and in touch with the world at all could have been unaware of Matthew's struggles, pointing to that cruel text Plasencia sent to another doctor supplying the ketamine. I wonder how much this moron will pay. Let's find out. Perry had been candid about his years-long battle with addiction, opening up to our Diane Sawyer a year before his death.
Your disease is just outside, just doing one-arm push-ups, just waiting for you, waiting to get you alone.
Today in court, the former doctor admitted, I failed Mr. Perry, I failed his family, turning to them and saying, I am so sorry. Family was asked if they agreed with the sentence.
Does it matter? No, not really. Look, it's a tragic story, and, sometimes apparently nice guys do bad things, and the legal system has to take account of it.
All right, Trevor Ault, thank you for that report. And the FDA has now assigned a Class 2 risk to a nationwide recall of shredded cheese products sold at major retailers, including Aldi, Target, and Walmart. The voluntary recall was first issued by the Great Lakes Cheese Company after metal fragments were found in supplier materials. The affected shredded cheeses include provolone, mozzarella, and Parmesan blends distributed across 31 states and Puerto Rico. A Class 2 recall means that the product could cause temporary reversible health issues. Consumers are urged to check their fridge and discard any recalled cheese. Please go ahead and do that. All right, coming up here on Prime, the harsh reality of war. We are on the ground in Ukraine as the situation is increasingly dire. We're going to look at Ukraine's latest tactics and technologies that they're using to win back ground.
Now Ukraine is being asked to make further sacrifices, to give up land, to reduce the size of its army.
We are not going to do that.
You wouldn't accept it?
No. How we can accept it?
And Walmart beginning a new drone delivery service. When will it be coming to where you live? And it's that time of the year. Spotify's Year in Review rolls out. What songs and artists were most popular? We have all the details coming up here on Prime on ABC News Live. Even though White House envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner met with their Russian counterparts yesterday, including Vladimir Putin, to discuss a peace plan for Ukraine, few Ukrainians are actually holding their breath. Instead, they're digging in further, coming up with new tactics and especially new technologies to help their efforts against a Russian enemy that so far has shown no sign of wanting peace. Our chief foreign correspondent Ian Pannell reports now from Ukraine.
While world leaders talk peace, Ukrainians are dying. Killed in Russian attacks that come from the skies. Thousands of drones and missiles have been fired into civilian cities, and every night they come again. And again.
Hello?
What began as a land assault with artillery rockets and tanks almost 4 years ago has now become a deadly high-tech battle fought with missiles, drones and land robots. We met Volodymyr at what's left of his home in Kharkiv. His house was struck by a Russian drone last week. The roof collapsed, killing his wife Irina, leaving Volodymyr and his 2 children homeless and heartbroken. The chair where she'd been sitting marks the spot where she died. Irina had been receiving cancer treatment. She'd been responding well when she was killed. Volodymyr shows us shrapnel marks on the house from a second drone. It killed a neighbour. Like most Ukrainians in the east, Volodymyr is a native Russian speaker. One of Putin's justifications for this war is to supposedly liberate native ethnic Russians like him from persecution. Despite his loss, Volodymyr is uncompromising, saying if Ukraine hands over territory, Russia will simply be encouraged to take more.
И оказывается, что нас надо освобождать от чего? То есть меня от моего дома, от моей жены, детей от матери.
President Trump came to office promising to end the war in 24 hours. To date, all attempts to get a peace agreement have failed.
We're getting very close to a deal. We'll find out. I thought that one would have been gone quicker.
Now his team pushing for a settlement with shuttle diplomacy from Miami to Moscow. But the latest Kremlin meeting this week failed to reach a compromise deal on Ukraine. Few here expected a breakthrough. The question for Ukraine, can it hold on without a deal? We drove through the fog and mud in eastern Ukraine to get a glimpse of a battle that's changed the face of modern warfare. This dugout is home to a small unit of drone interceptors, living here for weeks at a time, keeping watch.
He's got a screen here with a radar, what looks like a radar. It's protected by the military, so we can't show you the screen, but you can clearly see Russian drones up in the sky, about 50 kilometers, so say just over 30 miles away, and you can see the trajectory, you can see where they're heading, and see what kind of threat it represents to Ukraine's military and Ukrainian civilians.
This is what they launch to bring down the drones. They're cheap and Ukrainian-made. They fly constant interceptions, but Russia's launching sometimes 600 drones a night.
When there are 600 drones, how can you stop them?
We do our best.
You do your best.
Russia is slowly advancing on the battlefield, albeit at huge cost. And the proliferation of attack drones has made it almost suicidal for Ukraine to send men and trucks to assist units on the front line. Partia Brigade in Kharkiv is revolutionising how this war is fought. A new army of unmanned land robots ferrying ammunition and supplies through the kill zone. This secret workshop feels like a cross between a guerrilla base and a high-tech startup. Even the troops here are a mix of scientists, engineers, mathematicians and IT experts.
What you're witnessing is a revolution in warfare. This is actually a ground drone. It's an unmanned ground vehicle. This is another one. And both of these vehicles are going to be deployed tonight to take important logistics, food, ammunition, water supplies to soldiers on the front line.
We do 1 or 2 trips.
Later, from another secret location, we watch an operation to deliver supplies to the front near Kharkiv. Ukrainian soldiers hurriedly offload the drone. And the pilot, around 15 miles away, steers the robot through the last deadly few miles.
How important is this technology now in the battle?
Well, I think it's super important, especially for a country that has less of everything, manpower, resources.
I trying to do everything by myself.
Vitaly is a victim of this new drone warfare. He was fighting on the front line in the east when he was hit by a Russian drone.
This is my right foot.
We met him with his wife, Julia. He lost both his legs.
In the last second, I just jumped away from the drone, but it was very close to me, maybe 1 or 2 meters. So this is the new type of war, and the world must know that it's not how they used to
How they used to fight wars.
Yes.
It's totally changed, right?
Totally changed, totally changed.
Julia's been by his side throughout long months of recovery.
What does this do to a relationship going through this?
I don't know, it's like your relations grow up in some higher level, and it's like, I don't know, you feel
More trust.
You feel person in the
more, yes, feeling that she is the right person that I chose lots of time ago.
You've obviously made an enormous sacrifice, the pair of you, for this war effort. And yet now Ukraine is being asked to make further sacrifices, to give up land, to reduce the size of its army.
We are not going to do that.
You wouldn't accept it?
No. How we can accept it? Because, okay, even if we say that we're going through the agreement, we are losing these territories, but this is will not stop Russia. You understand it? This is will not stop Russia.
Last week, another victim of this war was buried. John James Witherspoon, a young American volunteer from Michigan. He was killed fighting for Ukraine.
He said that he was there to defend the freedom, sovereignty, and ancestral lands of innocent people.
America stood by Ukraine throughout this war. Many here worry for how much longer. Until either side accepts that they're going to lose, or more likely, that they cannot win, then the chances of peace look remote. And only one thing is guaranteed for now, that every night the drones and missiles will fly, and every night Ukrainians will die in their beds.
Ian Panel, thank you so much. For more now, we are joined by former Russian diplomat Boris Bondarev, who left the country over its decision to go to war with Ukraine. Boris, thank you so much for your time here. As Ian just reported here, until either side accepts that they cannot win, chances for peace look remote. Do you see an end game here for either side?
Well, I see the end game for Russia. It is pretty obvious. They press forward, they crush Ukrainian defense eventually, and then they dictate their terms to all of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you ever in touch with people inside of Russia still? Any sense how the Russian people feel about this prolonged war?
Well, as far as I can get, they're not very much happy about what is going on right now, but they see no option for themselves to act somehow. So they still sit and wait for the situation to be somehow sorted out. So that's it.
Yeah. Putin appeared emboldened this week, threatening war with Europe too. How important is the U.S. in keeping Russia from any further aggression here?
Well, recent statements and steps by U.S. administration allows Russia to dream about unpunished and impunity to invade Europe at some point, or to even threaten European security, to threaten NATO security. And it seems that the United States is pretty okay with that. The United States is so desperate to restore previously existed relations between Russia and the United States, and Donald Trump seems to be so desperate in his desire to do business with Russia as usual. So why should he be concerned about European security? He doesn't care about it. He seems so.
But Boris, this might be a big question, but what do you think Ukraine needs to do right now?
Ukraine needs support, and military and political and economic support from Europe and from the United States. That's what Ukraine needs. They don't need to do anything more than they are doing now. They are bleeding and they are fighting and they are dying. I think that's more than you can demand from anybody else.
And you've said for years that your job was interesting, the salary was good, life was comfortable. On a personal level, how has life been since you resigned and left your country?
Well, I have eventually freedom to speak my mind, which I'm using right now, right? And that's great. That's really great to be free and to be able to speak whatever you think.
All right, Boris Bondarev, thank you so much for joining us here on Prime. We wish you the best. Thank you, sir. And coming up here on Prime, everything in moderation. That's what so many mothers say. But apparently a raccoon that broke into a Virginia liquor store never got that message. Look at that. And you won't want to miss what Spotify says are the year's most popular songs, albums, and artists. When we come back, you're watching Prime on ABC News Live. And welcome back to Prime. Here's a look at the top stories that are making headlines right now. A Pentagon watchdog concluded that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth risked exposing classified information that could have endangered U.S. troops when he relayed information about a planned military strike in Yemen on the messaging app Signal. In his statement to the Defense Department's Inspector General, Hegseth insisted that the information he shared in the chat was not sensitive and would not put troops at risk if exposed, an assertion the Inspector General rejected. President Donald Trump has pardoned Texas Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar and his wife in a federal bribery and conspiracy case. Trump says Cuellar and his wife were targeted because the congressman criticized former President Biden's immigration policies. Federal authorities had charged Cuellar with his wife with taking thousands of dollars in exchange for the congressman advancing the interests of an Azerbaijan-controlled energy company and a Mexican bank. Cuellar has said he and his wife are innocent. Salvador Plasencia, one of the doctors who admitted to distributing ketamine to Matthew Perry weeks before he died, was sentenced to 30 months in federal prison, the first to be sentenced among the 5 people convicted in connection with the Friends actor's 2023 overdose death. Plasencia pleaded guilty in July to 4 counts of ketamine distribution. He is one of 2 doctors convicted of providing Perry with ketamine before the actor died in October 2023 at the age of 54. And growing concerns over Waymo driverless cars. Videos show some of the cars trapping drivers inside, blocking street cars, prompting renewed concerns over safety. Waymo, owned by Google's parent company to Alphabet, telling ABC News that one of their vehicles did encounter a street blocked by police, calling it a learning experience. And coming up here on Prime, it's in the sky and headed for your doorstep. The big box store now launching their drone delivery service. Look at that. Plus, did you bop to Bad Bunny, sing to Taylor Swift at the top of your lungs? Spotify Wrapped is here and what it revealed about the world's listening habits. By the numbers, come on back. We're at the end of 2025, which means, of course, that it's time for Spotify Wrapped. And today, the music streaming service released its annual recap of the year's most popular songs, artists, albums, and more from around the world, while letting individual users see their own stats. So what did listeners stream this year? Well, let's unwrap the answers by the numbers here. Spotify's top global artist this year was Bad Bunny with 19.8 billion streams worldwide. It's the 4th time Bad Bunny has been named top global artist, and he has 2 albums listed in the top 10 globally, with Debí Tirar Más Fotos at the top. But with over 1.7 billion streams worldwide this year alone, well, the top song globally was Die With a Smile by Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars. Mars also featured another top 10 song, APT with Rosé, making him one of 2 artists, along with Billie Eilish, with multiple songs on that list. Aside from music, for the 6th straight year, the Joe Rogan Experience was ranked as the top podcast, and 2 of the top 3 audiobooks were written by Rebecca Yarros, including Fourth Wing, which was number 1 on the list. Spotify's ranking specifically in the United States had a few differences. Taylor Swift was the top artist there, Kendrick Lamar and SZA's Luther was the number 1 song, and Morgan Wallen's I'm the Problem was the top album. All right, coming up, how one artist found a way to create fine art with an unlikely mechanism. And Oscar-nominated actress Jessie Buckley joins us to talk about taking on the role of William Shakespeare's wife in Hamnet. Stick around. You're watching ABC News Live, Prime. The city that will start to get their Walmart deliveries by drone, celebrating 30 years of one of the world's most popular gaming consoles, and meet the masked bandit who ransacked the shelves of a liquor store and paid the price. These stories and more in tonight's Rundown. One man in England is making a name for himself by using typewriters to create fine art. Artist James Cook types out astonishing artwork using just the taps on his typewriter. Cook says that the art form has been around since the Victorian age and began experimenting with it in college while studying to be an architect. So, just how many taps does it usually take to make a beautiful picture?
I mean, in excess of at least 500,000.
Walmart's grocery drone delivery is taking flight in Atlanta. The big box store gave Good Morning America an exclusive inside look at what it calls a drone nest, where its latest delivery by Sky program launched this week. The drone will hover about 150 yards above the ground, then slowly lower the package on a tether and safely releases the package once it actually touches the ground. The drones can carry packages up to 2.5 pounds, fly within a 6-mile radius of a Walmart store, and have sensors to avoid obstacles during that delivery. College football's early signing period opened today, with much of the 2026 recruiting class committed. The date marks the opening of the final signing period for the class, where any remaining uncommitted or unsigned players will sign with a college or university. By signing financial aid agreements for the upcoming season, the prospects' commitments become official. The period is crucial for teams building out their rosters, as 12 months of recruiting plays out in the span of just 12 hours. One Virginia liquor store had an unusual patron this weekend. An inebriated raccoon found passed out in the bathroom. Authorities found the masked bandit collapsed in the bathroom after the furry burglar had ransacked shelves and drank multiple types of alcohol. Never good to mix. Officials said that they took the very intoxicated raccoon back to the shelter to sober up before releasing him back into the wild. It's been 30 years of PlayStation as the Sony game console celebrates 3 decades of gaming in North America. The first PlayStation, released in 1995, sold more than 100 million units globally using CD-ROM instead of clunky game cartridges. I remember that. The PlayStation 2 featured a built-in DVD player that rivaled the price of some standalone DVD players. It remains the best-selling console of all time, with 160 million units sold. More consoles followed alongside iconic games like God of War, The Last of Us, and Uncharted. The PlayStation 6 has been rumored to be in the pipeline for some time, but there's been no official word from Sony on any new console. LEGO is releasing a life-size World Cup trophy just in time for the biggest World Cup in history next year. The set contains more than 2,800 pieces and is the exact same height as the real trophy. It's going on sale next March for around $200, and the World Cup is right around the corner with kickoff in early June. Irish actress and singer Jessie Buckley years ago established herself as a star when she earned an Oscar nom for her role in the movie The Lost Daughter and won a Laurence Olivier Award for Best Actress in a Musical for her performance in London's West End revival of Cabaret. So perhaps it's a no-brainer that she now plays William Shakespeare's wife Agnes in the new film Hamnet, adapted from Maggie O'Farrell's best-selling book by the same title, in her role as a wife and mother whose son Hamnet dies at the age of 11. She really must confront grief, loss, and love in a way rarely seen on screen. Take a look at this.
What do you see?
I see you grown, very strong. And I see you in London working with your father.
In the theatre.
At the Playhouse.
Oh my goodness. I mean, what an emotional scene right there. And Jessie Buckley joins us here on Prime. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, we must say you just gave birth, 5 months ago? Congratulations.
Thank you.
This must be so interesting for you because here you are, your first child, and then you're also playing this role that's deeply powerful and emotional where the 11-year-old son dies. What was that like for you in your mind as you're going through this and going through this role?
Well, I wasn't a mother when I was filming this film. I love mothers and I was really wanting to become a mother, and it was really powerful to, Agnes is somebody who's so deeply connected to her body, to nature, to creation, within herself, but also within the landscape that she's living in and nature, and telling the story of Agnes, who's the kind of the unspoken spinal cord to William Shakespeare. It was amazing.
It's so interesting because this is a person in history who we don't know too much about. We don't know too much about William Shakespeare. So what attracted you to this particular role?
We don't know anything about anybody really at all.
Ain't that the truth?
And there's been enough kind of speculation of who both of these people are, but there's no absolute about who they are. I've had as many actors have had such a important relationship to Shakespeare. His plays and his words were the things that made me recognize myself as an actress. And
really?
Yeah. So it's been beautiful to kind of go full circle and have begun there and then be in the audience in a different capacity telling this story.
So obviously, since you love Shakespeare, you obviously love this love story between Agnes and William Shakespeare, played by Paul Mescal. That must be so interesting that's part of what I'm sure drew you in, that love story.
And this is the story about, the risk to love means that you might lose something, and both of those polarities live beside each other. And he is the man who created Romeo and Juliet, so he must have known some titanic love and a love for a woman like Agnes in some capacity in his life.
And bring Agnes to life, even though we don't know a lot about her. Now perhaps we know a little bit more because of your performance.
Yeah, I think it's so, beautiful beside these giants of our culture to see who are the women beside them and behind them who, inspired the great love stories of our time, the great tragedies of our time. And this is just the beginning of maybe what potential and who she possibly was. And I'm sure there'll be other versions and other stories of who she was. And yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Jessie Buckley, thank you so much. You're a pleasure. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Hamnet, directed by Chloe Zhao, with a screenplay by Zhao and Maggie O'Farrell, stars Jessie Buckley and Paul Mescal as William Shakespeare, and it is in theaters right now. And that's our show for this hour. I'm Gio Benitez. Stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Have a good night.